Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and this is my tournament summary of the 2022 DGPT Silver Series Music City Open in Nashville, Tennessee. And my summaries aren't about me unless I'm on the lead card and I'm relevant to the tournament summary, which I wasn't. So I'm just going to talk about the tournament itself, and there's going to be spoilers. It says summary right there in the title, so shame on you if you click on this thinking I'm not going to talk about this in a summary video. But first off, I know this is going to get old, but the tournament went off without a hitch. The staff did a great job. Marcus did a great job calling out the scores. Dr. Hoy was the tournament director. Will McCaskill is always there as part of it. I know he kind of passed things along recently, but he was a huge part of getting this tournament to where it was. The spotters knew their jobs, the scorekeepers, the UDisc people. I mean, just again, everything just knocks it out of the park. I just have to thank him every time. I mean, the spotters are out there. All they're doing is just making our life more fun. Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. All of the sponsors. Dynamic Discs was the main sponsor of this event, but yeah, it was awesome. Is Chris Dickerson the best golfer in the world? Okay. I know there's Paul and Ricky and Calvin and other players having great years. And, Paul and Ricky are always going to be Paul and Ricky. But Dickerson's in that conversation right now. I mean, that guy is playing such solid golf, and it's like the most consistent golf that there could be. I mean, like, he doesn't miss fairways. He doesn't miss easy shots. I mean, he's just so good. I mean, not that all the players at the top aren't good, but you get this feeling of like that he's in control. Like, he knows where the disc is going to go. It's not going to miss the gap. It's not going to hit an early tree. I mean, he's just playing with confidence now. Come Worlds. I mean, it's going to be a great season, but Dickerson is absolutely in the conversation as one of the top couple players in the world right now. Hats off to him. Adam Hammes was shot a 9 under the final round. 9 under is a great score on that course. There's trouble on most of the holes, and some of them are kind of gimmicky where you could throw a good shot and it doesn't work out the way you want. And Dickerson needed to shoot a 9 under. We needed to shoot a 7 under to win. But even a 7 under is not a gimme out there for anybody. So he got pushed. He kept it together. What are you going to do? Dickerson deserved that one. In the FPO, it's kind of what I've been saying. This week it was Missy Gannon. I keep saying a new player is going to win every week. And thank you to the FPO field for making me look really smart by a new player stepping up and winning every week. But this was Missy's weekend. I mean, I don't get to watch her play because they're teeing off before us in the morning, and I'm bummed out about that. But I saw that she played solid from the start. She had a solid middle, and she had a solid end. She played great. She deserves to win. First win of the year for her. I know Kat hung in there, but it was Missy's weekend. But Kat will have her weekend. Marish, by the way. Katrina Allen will also have many weekends as well, but that Kat wasn't here. I think the story of this tournament, I want to talk about the course, because it gets a lot of negative slack. There are a lot of players that do not like the course. I understand why. Like, every reason I think is fairly valid. I mean, there's some holes where you got to pitch a 270 foot or less drive to get to a landing zone because it's a par 4. There's some holes that are somewhat kind of boring because you just throw hard out in the field, and there's not a lot of placement, but the placement holes are touchy. Like, you throw a long shot in an open field, but there's a very narrow opening to get into the gap. I thought the course was okay. You know, like if you listed every single course on the Pro Tour this year, and of course I haven't played all but, half dozen of them, but by the end of this year, if you force me to rank every single course on the Pro Tour, I would have a ranking of my favorite to least favorite. This course, it would be near the bottom of that list so far. But that's comparing the 20-something best courses in the world. That does not make it a bad course. Like, if you took the 5 worst courses off the Pro Tour, you'd still be left with the worst course on tour. And if you got rid of that one, you'd be left with the worst course on tour. I mean, that's just the way it works. It's a good course. I think it's a really good course. I think some of the holes can be a bit gimmicky, like those little chip shot drives. Like, I don't like that. I think those are kind of silly. I mean, you shouldn't have a non-approach shot where you're throwing, 200 feet off a tee pad. Not the biggest fan of that. I didn't like the drop zone on the island hole. Hole, was it 10 or 11 or something like that? I thought the hole itself was real interesting because you had a very small area to land your birdie and a bigger area to play for par. And I thought that was kind of cool because you could play the conservative approach to play for par. I went for birdie first round, threw out of bounds. I went for the big area. The next 2 rounds, parred both times. The drop zone was a problem because the basket in that narrow area is so close to out of bounds. 100% of people are laying up from the drop zone, but it's close enough where 100% of players tap in their putts. So if you miss out of bounds, you could just pick up and write down a 4 and move on. I mean, I'd be willing to bet 100% of players got up and down. Not one of them went for it. So the drop zone either needs to be closer or farther away. But other than that, I mean, one of the things I like is that a lot of the woods were really thick. When you throw deep into the woods and you automatically have a 50-50 chance of having a way out to the hole, or a 50-50 chance that you can't and you have to pitch back out, there's luck involved. You throw into the rough, flip a coin, couple good breaks, couple bad breaks make the difference. And it was thick enough where when you got deep into some of the stuff, you had to pitch back out, which basically made it act like out of bounds. I like that more than the luck and inconsistency of a less densely wooded area. So I'm fine with that. Couple of the holes were short. One of the holes had a bunch of lava rock. I think it's lava rock by the basket, which meant you had this like these steps up to the hole, completely unpredictable landing. The course wasn't perfect, but it was fine. It was a good course. I enjoyed it. The first time I played it, I thought it was really wide open and really easy. And then when I played it in the tournament, I started seeing where the hard stuff comes in. So I think that's probably the biggest story. Like, it's not a bad course. It was a very good course. It's just possible that every other course on tour is stellar. And so we're comparing to the best in the world. 15,000 courses in the world, and we probably play on 20 of the best 40 of them. But other than that, I think the tournament went off great. I had a great time. I love playing in Nashville. Tournament was smooth. They did everything right. So I give the tournament itself, an A. A bit redundant. I've given every tournament so far an A, but no one's done anything wrong. DGPT, the PDJ, the local clubs, knocked it out of the park again. So I had a great time. Thanks, everybody.